Hi, my name is Barry Thornton. I'm going to talk to you about leverage buyout. Now, leverage buyout is probably the greatest wealth creation system known to mankind, and it hasn't just been around with us for 5 minutes. It's been around for us for at least 200 years that I can tell of, or probably about 1,000 years. But let's look at the recent history. You probably heard of the Baron de Rothschild. Well, you know, he enunciated and said in 1800, around the time of the Napoleonic War, Waterloo and all that, that we buy when there's blood running in the streets. Now, he said that for a simple reason, because there'd been a pigeon sent across from the battle site, and things had not been going so well for the Grand Duke, because he had problems with his army and the men. I think he said that they frightened him as well. And he, in actual fact, received this pigeon, and the message on it said things weren't going so well, which was true. And but the rumour mill in London sort of said, well, you know, boys, we've lost the war. The price of the stock market collapsed, and the property market collapsed, and the grand old, you know, Baron went around buying everything up for pennies in the pound. And of course, about 3 or 4 days later, the fast packet arrived. That's a sailing ship, and the message was, we've won. And of course, everything returned back to what it was formerly. And that's when he said, we buy when there's blood running in the streets. Now, figuratively here, there was blood running in the streets. In reality, there was in Belgium when that battle was going on, when thousands and thousands of men died. But that's not why we're here. We're not here about history. We're here about one of the greatest wealth creation systems known to man. And that is called leverage buyout. It has 2 or 3 names. It has leverage buyout, nothing down, and no cash down. And all those names describe what it does at that moment in time. Now, why are we talking about leverage buyout? Well, it is a lifestyle thing too. People who do leverage buyout, like Branson, who is famous in the world, Trump, who is also famous for his property acquisitions, Gates, who is famous, of course, for his software company, which is one of the biggest, and he's worth, I think, about 42 or 52 billion, and Mittal. All these people, Mittal, by the way, is in steel. He's probably one of the biggest steel magnates on the planet, and he lives in this country. Now, these men are all leverage buyout practitioners, and there's no accident they are so wealthy, because they took over businesses using the principles of leverage buyout. And what are those principles? Very simple. We take the assets, we take the liabilities, we take the freehold, we take anything else to structure what we call a pyramid deal. And so the pyramid is like that. It's small at the top and fat at the bottom. And at the bottom, we put the first amount, which is a big amount, and then the second amount, and the third amount, until we get to the smallest amount. And that's how we structure a deal, until we either pay for the deal, if it's $1 million or 2 million, or we pay for it and pay ourselves. Now, most of the time, you can pay yourself for having done a deal. And that's the exciting part about this as well, because not only do you take over an organization that can be very wealthy, or a property, as you've seen with Trump, you can actually pay yourself for having done the deal, plus you've acquired this fantastic business which you knew was a good business. And you got the accountants in, you got the lawyers in to make sure the deal went through. And we do that on a contingency basis, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So this is the most fantastic thing that you will ever come across, leverage buyout. I've been a leverage buyout practitioner since 1970s, beginning of the 1970s, and I got into it by a complete accident. And then I made a whole huge study of it. I wrote books and the manuals on it, and people have bought them, and some have gone on, like Melvin and a whole lot of other people, to expand and build huge businesses up from this. Now, there's no reason why you can't do that, because in this country we have over 4 million businesses. That's a stock of businesses. And of them, 25 to 30% are for sale at any one stage, probably even higher than 30%. But let's say it's only 25%. That's 1 million businesses for sale. Goodness gracious. And there's nobody buying them, and I'll tell you why. Of those 1 million businesses, only 17%, approximately, and even they said that's too optimistic. But let's say it's 17% are sold annually. That's 170,000. That leaves 83,000 unsold, and apparently these will remain unsold for 2 to 6 years. And some will never be sold, be broken up, etc. Now, let's go back to the 17%, the 170,000. That's the 17% of the million. Remember the million I talked about? 3.4% of the million businesses are sold, or 34,000 are sold in the first year of being offered. That's all, 3.4%. The balance of that 17% that were sold this year, Just take the 3.4% off the 17%. That leaves us 13.6% or 136,000. Those businesses came out of the 83%, which are going to take 2 to 6 years to sell. So these businesses in that 13.6% had already taken 2 to 6 years to sell and were finally sold this year. So the businesses, the 3.4% that were sold, the 34,000, plus the 136,000, makes up the 17% or 170,000, still leaving 83% unsold. So that's not good news for the people who want to sell their businesses, especially if they're ill with cancer, heart problems, old age. And I've come across all those things, that's why I mentioned them. Sugar, diabetes. People get very, very ill. So we can enhance, there's 4 things we do as leverage buyer practitioners. Number 1, we get a man out of a position that he no longer wants to handle. He can't handle, he's either too old, too sick, or just has to get out for one or other reason. 2, we save the business, which is good because that means that all sorts of people get paid in the end. 3, we save jobs. Well, that's excellent, isn't it? And 4, of course, we enrich ourselves. That's fantastic. We've made ourselves more wealthy. And if the first business you take over is only 100,000, the second one's worth 150,000, the third one is say 300,000 because you're getting better at the deals, how long is it before you become a multi-millionaire or a millionaire? You couldn't hope to do this under any other circumstances. That's why the most successful people are leverage buyer practitioners. That is why you can have a fantastic lifestyle. You've seen these pictures in the background of planes and boats and yachts and hotels and beaches and all that sort of thing, because you can spend more time in those areas when you're doing leverage buyer. This is the fun part about it, and I've been doing that all my life. So I'm going to cut off now, and if you want to see more or read more, look further through this website, and we have another video like this. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.